Hey there, Jason Spangler, the SanteeSwapper, back with another unboxing video. This is a really interesting Boy Scout collection that I got. It's actually 3 generations of Scouts. I spoke to the father, and what he described to me was he and his son kind of got together, I guess maybe over a holiday. It's been COVID, so who knows, probably getting together, and decided to go through their Scout stuff and sort of break out what they wanted to keep and what they really didn't want to hold on to any longer. But the third leg of this collection belonged to the grandfather, and apparently it was the grandfather who was in Scouting the longest, I believe may have earned the Silver Beaver, and so significant numbers of items in this box are from the grandfather. And so I have seen some pictures. The father, the gentleman told me that he added stuff to the original pictures, and so we are yet to make a deal on this. I kind of have an initial offer out to him, and he said, well, I want you to look at the box and see, I've added some stuff in there. So after this unboxing video, I will be contacting him and making a deal to purchase this collection. But I think you'll really enjoy it. I know there's a couple of things in here that I'm very anxious to see, and so let's break into it. This collection is from Virginia, and of course, as you probably follow along, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so this is an interesting collection for me to get. Sometimes I get collections from the Midwest or places far away, and that's all good and well, but to get one that's kind of closer to home is kind of nice. And not bad at all. Let's see what we got here. So right off the bat, we have some OA sashes falling out, and then also looks like there's a wood badge neckerchief in there as well. Got some Scout Training Awards. Oh man! There's the money. So this is a big old bag of Order the Arrow flaps, Council shoulder patches. I see a Lodge pie patch back there. That's going to be a fun bag to go through. Another bag here. This looks to be all like event patches, rounds, some jacket patches on the back. Again, another fun one to look at. Here's a bag of bolo slides and pins. This looks to be all Jamboree stuff. I'll comment on that in a minute. International items. Somebody might have done some trading overseas. Something kind of cool from the 77 Jamboree. Looks like a little plaque. And then here are some neckerchiefs and patrol slides, patrol flags. So this just looks like a 1977 Jamboree, some kind of a plaque or something. I guess I can go ahead and pull this off. I'm going to buy the collection. I think that's obvious. So don't feel too bad opening it up, right? So that's just kind of an interesting little plaque there. I don't have a real connection to the 77 Jamboree. My brother went to the 81 Jamboree, and I know a lot of guys who went to the 85 Jamboree, but 77, a little bit before my time. I was only 4 years old. Sorry about that. So I'll throw this up here. This is the bag of international items, just to kind of give you a little flavor, but these really are not items that I think are going to be of too much interest to those of us who collect Boy Scout patches from America, but you know, sometimes, oh, there's one. A Playboy patch. Whoa, okay. Now this is kind of cool, a little NFC, AFC patch. So sometimes you have some patches like this, Colt 45, stuff that's not official BSA. So we'll have to get that out of there, man. Dun, dun, dun. What am I trying to do here? Corrupt the young people? Throw a couple of these items up there. See what we have here. Looks to be just some pins, Broad Creek, which would be a scout camp, a pin here, 85 Jamboree, coin, slide. Nothing too exciting there. As I mentioned, the stuff we're kind of really interested in is probably these bags of patches. Now we'll go ahead and slide the Jamboree bag up. You know, I kind of talk about this quite often, that Jamboree stuff is just not really that valuable. The problem being that all of these patches, they made tens and hundreds of thousands of. I mean, in the case of 73 Jamboree, it was the largest Jamboree ever held. They actually had 2 locations, one on the eastern side of the country and one in the west. And so, man, a lot of guys went to the 73 Jamboree. So that patch was prolific. So, not gonna waste too much time on that. Let's go for the event patches next. This is always kind of fun to look at. So when I say event patches, you know, districts, councils hold events all the time, things like Camporees, Klondike, Scoutaramas, whatever. And every council, every district does this every year. And so there's just going to be just incredible swath here. I'll throw some up here. I'm seeing some that designate as Baltimore Area Council, sometimes abbreviated as BAC. And so some of these he has kind of a stack of. You can tell that's probably a sign where this person was a leader and they had some kind of involvement in that. That's kind of cool. Indianapolis Colts piece right there. You'll also see things like this are generic Jamboree patches where the same Jamboree design was used by multiple councils. And so what you kind of have here is just a really broad collection. There's a camp patch, another camp patches. So all of these kind of work out to be items that there is kind of, you know, somebody would be interested in this. You know, somebody's from South Florida Council, somebody from Baltimore Area Council might be interested in those. But it's a little bit different of a market than something like council strips or like Order the Arrow that would be collected by a wider group. So it's not always going to be the case that this can, these will be ones I can easily rehome to someone. Oh, here's interesting. Okay, so Baltimore Historic Trails. So another type of scout patch that you sometimes will come across in collections is a historical trail. And so this would be a situation where there would be some kind of a, you know, a scavenger hunt or historical trail that the scouts would have to hike, and they would qualify for a patch, sometimes for a medal. And so those are scattered out all over the country. That used to be kind of a big thing back in maybe the 60s and 70s. I confess the only historical trail I ever did was the Kings Mountain Historical Trail in North Carolina. And so I've not really done many of those, but I know in some places it's still pretty popular. So I'm seeing event patches kind of from all over, from Florida, Baltimore, just really all over. So the way that I organize these after the video is I will kind of lay them all out, and then I'll break them down and say, okay, well, which ones are district Jamborees, which ones are, you know, council events that have the council name on it, that kind of thing, and I'll go through them all. So that's kind of what I'll do with this group. I mean, I've put several of them up there for you to see, but you know, these event patches are kind of just all over the place. So it's great that there's so many event patches. It's a lot of work back on me to then try to organize them, but you know, I'm playing with patches, so it's like, you know, throwing the Brer Rabbit in the proverbial pen. Let me throw this one up there. I really think that's a pretty cool looking camp patch. I like that. Some of them really have great designs. So, and let's get into this bag of OA. Now, I am a group and OA collector, so it's no harm to say that I get excited about OA patches. That's kind of what I still collect. I have a name and number collection. I collect Carolina OA specifically. But in some of the pictures I saw, there's a couple of OA patches in here that belong to his dad, one of which was from my home lodge, and I'm kind of curious to come across that one. So let's just start off with a couple of shoulder strips. This is a red and white shoulder strip. Red and white shoulder strips came before the council strips. Council strips came out in the 70s, and so some of these here are sewn, so definitely you can tell when you see a collection like this and you have multiple sewn strips, that means these came off uniforms. So probably the dad was in the Baltimore Area Council, and that's why he has so many of these strips just from swapping his uniform out, and also that matches up with everything we saw in the event patches. So a lot of time these videos, I try to sort of look at the patches and then kind of recreate what I can sort of tease out from the patches as far as where people were and that kind of thing. I threw up there some FOS strips, and so FOS strips are Friends of Scouting. Those are fundraisers for the Boy Scouts. You know, those can actually be pretty good. The thing about FOS strips is you typically had to give money in order to get one. It's not true for every council, because some councils would then later maybe sell the extras or something like that, and you know, for $3 or whatever. So it wasn't like you had to give $100 to get one, but still it's kind of nice to have some FOS strips. They're definitely ones that are kind of exciting. So now I've got a nice stack of Order the Arrow flaps to go through, and I secretly already spotted the one that I really am looking for, so I'll throw that one up there in just a second. But let me just finish pulling these out. So the Order of the Arrow, as many of you know, is the National Honor Society, if you will, of the Boy Scouts of America. Many of them are named after Indian tribes or variations of Delaware Indian language names, or maybe local Indian names. And so I'll kind of go through these really fast. And as I do that, you'll see the one that I was anxious to get. All right, so, and I don't have them all memorized, guys, but like Okinichi, that is Raleigh, North Carolina. Here's Nawakwa, which is in Richmond, Virginia, and I can't keep this up because I don't have them memorized. But that one's from New York, I believe, and this one's from Maryland and here. Now, what we're seeing is that these are from the 70s, and that's what kind of got me excited about this collection, was that it's not all modern stuff. You know, I got in the OA in 1986, so like this patch up here I just threw up is a 1976 patch. And many of these are cloth back, so just to kind of give you that, these are cloth back, which typically means they're going to be pre-1975, pre-1980, and then also they don't have a fleur-de-lis or a BSA on them. So like you see these two Immokalee flaps from Georgia, or this Seneca flap, or this, see I did it here, Anandas, or this Sasakis, which is from New York. They don't have the fleur-de-lis or BSA, or say Boy Scouts of America, and that was sort of a trademark thing the Boy Scouts did around about 1975, and so it helps date these as being pre-1975 OA flaps. And then also it helps that you can look at the cloth back on the back as well. So those are all pretty cool. These are beautiful designs. I'll keep throwing some up here, and I see my friend getting ready to come up in just a second. This Cuckoo Kahoo, I will tell you, as of right this minute, is actually a need of mine. As I mentioned, I have a name number set, and so in going through in my collection, trying to organize it, recently I discovered I don't have a 161 Cuckoo Kahoo, which is a Virginia Lodge, and so that actually might go in my collection. Woohoo! All right, now here's the one I was waiting to show you. When I saw this one, I got pretty excited. This was in the pictures that he shared with me, because this one kind of means something to me. This is a Brotherhood flap from my home lodge, Santee Lodge, and my dad actually used to wear this flap on his scout shirt. And so this was the early 70s pre-fleur-de-lis Brotherhood flap from my lodge. We called it the Spread W because of the design you can see. And in the mid-70s, they kind of rearranged the items on the background, put the W's together, and added a fleur-de-lis to this when that copyright thing kicked in. So this is before that. And so this was kind of a special flap for me that I always thought was cool. So there's a lot more lodge flaps in this collection. This is a nice little collection. There's another good lodge that's easy to collect. Black Eagle is Transatlantic Council, the guys out there in Germany, England that are maybe serving in the military. Here's a chapter flap. You check that out. That chapter flap, not many lodges do that really. I guess maybe it was a thing more often back in the day, but there are chapter flaps. This is kind of a neat woggly flap from Georgia. This is a Vigil Honor flap from Greenville, South Carolina. So I'm seeing a lot of flaps here. So again, this is kind of going back to, this was the stuff that belonged, I think, to the dad. And so I'm really excited to get this. Here's a Muskogee Lodge flap, which Muskogee is Columbia, South Carolina, where I actually work in the summertime. And that's a twill flap from their lodge in the 70s. Then here's a Cherokee 50, which at one time these Cherokee 50s were one per life, no trade. I don't know, I'll have to look that one up to see if that's what it was. But you can see this was sewn, so this could have been, you know, one of those good ones. Keep going through the list here. I'm trying to look for ones maybe you haven't seen. Here's a Kickitan from Newport News, Virginia that we haven't seen yet. There's a Tipasaw from Florida. Cola Lodge, that's from out west. Osage, that's from Missouri. Comanche, that's not a bad one at all. And then again, this is Nantico. This would have been the Baltimore, and so it kind of matches the other sewn flaps that we've seen. Here's an earlier Baltimore. He's got some other ones mixed in here. Here's an earlier Baltimore red and white strip, which again, that kind of goes right with what he had. We've seen so far before. Blue Heron, which is Virginia. Shenandoah, Shinshapatu, another Kickitan. Eswahupades in North Carolina. We've already seen that guy. Gitchigummy, I think he's New Jersey. Again, I don't have them all memorized. Timaquan, which is Florida. This is a nice, pretty Similachi from Florida. King Philip, you can tell that's from the New England area. Let's see what else we got here interesting. Seeing some of the same ones over and over, but that's fine because they're nice old patches. Narictong, another Nawakwa. Shushugas, Brooklyn, New York. This is kind of interesting. One for this up here. That is Puerto Rico. And so Puerto Rico, being it's an American territory, has its own OA lodge, always has. And that's that one right there. Another Gitchigummy. H1 Natopolis with the witch riding her stick. This one's another funky design. We've always seen that one. So, whew, that's kind of the run. I don't know what to put them all up there for you guys, but essentially, this is a tremendous run of OA flaps, which is like the bread and butter, what I really, really like to collect. and does well for me. So I'm very excited to see this run. I will just wrap things up just kind of by quickly looking at the rest of this. I think we've kind of hit the heavy hitters. Some OA sashes here. Looks like an Ordeal sash and a Brotherhood sash. And then we have these two right here. Just to kind of explain the difference, some of you know, some of you might not know. The white buffalo actually was worn by women. So female scouters that went to Philmont on their red vests, I'm sorry, red jack shirts, they would wear the white bull. Eventually, of course, they did away with that because having separate things like that was probably viewed as being a little sexist, and so they did rid of that, but at the time, that's what it was. All right. Oh, okay, he did mention this to me. So this, let me just throw this up there. Oh my Lord, this is big. This is like a bed sheet or something. But this is an Iranian neckerchief from the time before the Iranian Revolution. There was, of course, scouting in Iran, and so that neckerchief is from that time period. And then here's an interesting pack neckerchief. This is an Eagle Patrol flag that's pretty dirty and faded, but that's still pretty authentic. Wood badge participant neckerchief. It's a camp neckerchief. And then another troop neckerchief. So maybe, again, a little, you can kind of with the pack, and then if I'll throw this one out there, you can start to see that this guy was from Maryland. And again, I think when I say this guy, I mean the father. I think that the dad now lives in Virginia. So, all right. Well, guys, I hope that was a fun little collection to unbox. I know it was one that I've been anxious to unbox. It's actually been sitting in my office for like 3 or 4 days, and I literally either didn't have the time to devote to it or just had so much going on I couldn't get to it and film this video. And so the guy's kind of anxious to hear what I thought about the collection, and I'm going to report back. I'm really interested, and I hope we're going to work out a deal. So I hope you enjoyed this unboxing video. Again, Jason Spangler, the SanteeSwapper. Go to my YouTube channel. I have dozens of unboxing videos. I am a scouting memorabilia dealer in Charlotte, North Carolina. And if you have a scout collection that is just sitting in a closet, hiding out in the basement or whatever, I hope you'll reach out and contact me. I would love to talk to you, kind of get your scouting story over the phone, and then potentially make a deal to purchase the collection from you. Yeah, that's easy. Thanks very much, guys. Jason Spangler, the SanteeSwapper.